Uh, hey everybody. Um, this weekend I went racing. I went racing in real cars on a real circuit, and it was paid for by my employer. So it was basically the little company I work for had an anniversary. They've been around for 10 years, and we wanted to do something special. And we usually go karting because that's what everybody likes. But this time we stepped it up a little bit and we went for the real racing experience. Now, I took some footage, but the footage isn't as spectacular as I thought, so it doesn't really convey the pure excitement and the greatness of the experience that I had. And just talking about it is going to be, I mean, it's Tuesday night now, and I went on Sunday. Um, and sort of the initial excitement. I probably should have filmed this on Sunday night, but I was watching the Formula One race in Malaysia, which was won by Max Verstappen, which was great as well. It happened on the same day, so I was really tired at the end of that. It was a long day. We went there in the morning and we stayed there until like 6 p.m. So it was a long day, full of excitement and full of energy and all that. So I'm just going to talk about what we did, and I'm going to cut the video. I'm going to splice in some of the footage that I shot. Of course, it's me filming. It's also my colleagues filming. So I'm not really sure if you're seeing me racing, but anything you see, at least I did. So you can imagine that it was me at the wheel, and it might well be so. But also I want to make this a little bit about gaming, and I'm going to start there. So, if you've been here for a while, you know that I use the Oculus Rift to play Elite Dangerous a lot. And before I started playing that, I was lucky enough to be able to test whether I would get motion sickness from playing it. Now, in Elite Dangerous, the most motion sickness inducing movement is rolling the spaceship. You're basically inside a spaceship all of the time. Rolling the spaceship, especially inside space stations, which are basically a hollow tube, but all tubes are hollow, with landing pads on the inside, and you never know where you are going to land, so there's a lot of rolling, and that motion that really got me, well, that was the only thing that got me a little queasy. But I noticed that over time, that sensation of queasiness that was luckily only a little bit in Elite, it sort of got less and less until it was completely gone. I can play Elite now and I can do anything I want without getting sick at all. I never really got sick, but that little bit of queasiness, I had to roll really slowly, but my body seems to have adapted. Now, racing was another thing that I wanted to do in VR. I play Project Cars in VR, which works extremely well on my system. And it was fine racing. I could going on the straights was fine, but the corners were just too much. I could do like one lap and then I'd be too nauseated to continue, so I had to stop. Now with this racing thing coming up, I always want to do well. I always want to be like the fast. Something inside me says that I'm superior to everyone else. Reality dictates that I'm not, but it still works that way. So I was getting a little nervous, and I thought I really want to practice. I want to get some racing in. So I put my VR on again after it's been a while since I played racing games with my VR glasses on. But I tried it, and I noticed that, again, that feeling of nausea as it's still sort of there, far in the background, I suppose. I get a little sweaty and warm, but that might be from the exertion as well. I mean, you're concentrated and you want to do well, and but I wasn't as nauseated as I used to be. I can drive races, 5 laps, 10 laps, doesn't really matter. I can just go. So that's a good thing for the concept of VR, that even though you can feel queasy at the start, over time, as you sort of go with it a little bit, and I didn't play VR a lot to make it go away, just I mean, at least not in racing games, but that kind of worked. So I was happy that worked. The only thing is that I didn't have the circuit on my computer that I was going to race on, which is the Zandvoort circuit. Now, the Zandvoort circuit was a Formula One circuit from from the 1950s to 1985. That was the last Formula One race. Niki Lauda won it. I think the lap record was held by Alain Prost. And it was adapted over time, even during its Formula One heyday. Some chicanes were added, but then sort of after 1985, a bungalow park was built, and they turned it into a temporary circuit, which was much smaller. And then it took years and years and years because the people living around the circuit didn't want it to be reinstated. So it stayed like that intermediate circuit for a long time until, I don't know, I guess late in the 90s, 98 maybe, or maybe even later than that. It was sort of almost changed into its former glory. It's sort of a weird shape now, but it's a full circuit, and it's being used. The DTM uses it, and there's a load of races there. So it was a real a large part of the circuit is still the original circuit that it was in its heyday, and to drive there knowing that the big ones Alan Jones and Jody Scheckter and Keke Rosberg and all these big names, Villeneuve, and they drove there. They actually drove there, so that was really cool. So on to the day. Like I said, I think we arrived there at 9:30, and we were supposed to start at 10:30. A colleague of mine was watching the race this whole time on his phone, so we were kind of following the race, which ended at 10:30, and the introduction things that they had organized started at 10:30 as well. And you imagine there's a few hundred people there, and we all got separated off into little groups of 10 or 12 people, and we each had their own program depending on what they paid for, and we had sort of a luxury package, so we did most of the things that the circuit had to offer that day. So I raced in a lot of cars, but I also did some off-roading, and we did a little slalom thing, and we did a 180 course, handbrake and all that, and so we did a lot of things. Now, I have that's the light going off and on. Anyway, we had sort of no, I didn't have any real racing experience on a circuit. So first thing is they show us a couple of BMW 1s, like a 1 Series, small cars, and they are race prepared. They have a roll cage, and they have the seats torn out and But basically, they're bog standard BMWs, and just put on a helmet, get in, and get going. Now, all of the heats that we did, or laps, basically, there was a couple of rules. There's one guy who was the instructor. He drives in front of the row, and you can't pass anyone because obviously at the same time there are other cars as well, and it's they don't want anything dangerous to happen. But this guy, he looks in his mirrors. And if the group can stay together, he'll speed up. He'll keep speeding up and going faster and faster and faster until he sees that someone is lagging behind and can't keep up the pace, and then he'll slow down. So basically, you're going as fast as the slowest car can, sort of the weakest link kind of thing. Now, sounds kind of lame, but these people, they know the circuit and they go fucking fast. And when you've never done that before, that is really... I mean, you have to get your cornering right. You have to get the racing lines correctly, and if you don't, you lag behind. And that first, you do everything you do is 2 laps, and then you go back in. So in those BMWs, I was struggling. Part of the reason was that the seat was just a standard seat. So going into a corner fast, you'd slide into the seat, and you'd be hanging on the steering wheel, which wasn't comfortable at all. And worst of all, my second gear didn't work, so I tried to get it into second gear a couple of times, just wouldn't work. So I'd fall behind, and I'd have to catch up again. So I'd brake late and lock the brakes and everything. It was exciting, but after the first couple of minutes and the first 2 laps in those cars, I was sort of bummed out because I couldn't keep up the way that I thought I could. So I sort of there was a first thing of the day, and I couldn't do it. So we get that. You park the car and you go on to the next pit box, right, where we did everything from the pit lane. So the next thing is they have 8 Porsche 911s.
And a Porsche.
But not road Porsches, no. These are the GT3 ones. So look, they're really, and again, roll cage and stripped down and they're really raw sounding. These are all automatics, by the way, and just get your helmet on and get going. Now, these cars were amazing. They were a lot quicker. The seats were a lot better, and I could really keep up, no problem at all. And if you know the circuit, there's a section that goes up the hill, and it's just flat out. It's really flat out. And when you put the power down on these things, you have to be a little bit careful because you come out of a turn, you put the power down, and you have to watch the guy in front of you because you don't want to hit him. But I was noticing that as I went on, I kept up. It was easier to keep up with the guys in front. So I was starting to have a little bit of fun, and when you come onto the straight, you just floor it. It's like a really long right-hander, and you sort of know that you can go flat out really early, and you just go. And they said, well, try not to concentrate too much on your speedometer because you have to brake in time. And the week before, someone had skidded off at the end of the straight because there's a hairpin, like the Tarzan. That's the name of the curve, and you really have to start braking at 100 or 75 meters. And if you don't do that, you're off. And you think you can brake late because that's what you think, right? I'm going to go fast and then I'm going to brake late, but you underestimate your speed. We were going well over 200 kilometers an hour because these things aren't limited, and they just go like stink, they go really fast. And like halfway down the straight, they start lifting off, and then at like 100 or 150 even, they started braking, which is a good thing, because later on I thought, I can brake a little later, but that's really dangerous, because that corner, it comes up really quickly. So well, after those Porsches, I was ready for the next thing. So we also did a McLaren drive. Nou, Wout, kom op. So they had two McLaren 540Cs, which are new models. They had two of them. And they had, I think, 2 or 3 Mercedes GT AMGs, which are basically the Formula One pace cars. They're V8s. They are awesome. They were the best cars that I don't know horsepower, but they were into the hundreds easily. So this I took the McLaren first, which again, it was an automatic, but it was super silky smooth, and there were all these cars, they have the paddles, like you can do your own shifting, but I know that's not always. Because it's never fully manual. It's still gonna do automatic shifting if you take it too far. But the gearbox in this McLaren, it was just so smooth, and it was such a joy to drive that thing. And again, going flat out, you all of a sudden, because this is like the third time I'm going over the circuit, and I'm sort of getting to know the corners, and I'm getting to know the lines. I can see because we didn't have the same instructor, you get different instructors all the time. And they're like driving lines, and you think, no, I want to go a little bit wide so I can take the next corner better. So I was sort of pushing the guy in front of me, to go faster. And you check your rearview mirror, and your colleague behind you is pushing you as well. So we're all like pushing to go faster. But you're going flat out in a supercar on a circuit that you've only just sort of met, and it's like the most normal thing in the world, and you go down the straight at 250, and the guy starts braking. Saying, "Yeah, don't brake so early. Come on, that is." So that was ace. So you park the old McLaren in the pit lane, and you move over to the Mercedes, which again, the McLaren is like it sounds nice, but it's all, the sound is very subdued. It's sort of, you can drive this on the road as well. You could do your shopping in it, not much because there's not much room, but you could do that. In the Mercedes, it's none of that. It's a beautiful car to look at. Also on the inside, the detailing in the Mercedes was also ace. It was a little bit better than the McLaren, actually. McLaren looked a bit cheap on the inside. But the Mercedes, that was just ace. You let the thing go, and I'm sure these cars, they had all the driving assists on. So you can just floor it basically everywhere you want. But the Mercedes, when it changes gear, it just gives that loud bang. It was so cool to let it shift gear. It was so amazing, such an amazing car, and the sound that comes. It's a real raw V8, not like the American kind of deep-throated V8, but it's like an aggressive sound. and it was just ace to drive this in the corners, and you felt like you could go faster and faster in that thing. So this time you're going on the straight in the Mercedes, and of course, you know, by now we'd all learned the trick. You just could floor it. And all of a sudden, I'm feeling that it's holding back, and thinking, what the hell is going on? And it said in the little display that it had a speed limiter at 205 kilometers an hour. So I'm disappointed. I'm going slow. What the hell is this? And everyone was having this. So it just goes to show how quickly you get used to a speed like that, you know, and how easy it is to go over your limit that you normally would like be careful, and now you're on a circuit and the sky's the limit. So but the Mercedes, if I had to choose, you know, out of all the supercars that I drove, I would have gone for the Mercedes just because of the sound and the build quality. After that, what did we do? I think after that we went for the 1.8. Oh no, we did the ice driving thing. And there had these two little, I think they were Suzuki's or something, and they had the back wheels lifted on little, you know, what do you call them? Little platforms with four wheels under them, so that you have no grip on the rear. So, and they had a little slalom course, and the trick was to drive it down the course and drive it back and try to get it under control. And I was pretty good at that, because I noticed that when you get the automatic urge to stop, or to put your foot on the clutch and sort of let it go, but that doesn't work. You have to keep it moving, and that'll pull it in the direction that you're steering, actually. So it was kind of a little game, and it was fun to do, but not so spectacular. I don't think I have footage of that even. And then we did the 180 thing. Again, they had little Clios and an instructor who said, you know, what you do is you grab the wheel and you put your hand on the handbrake. You get the car up to 50 kilometers an hour. You go left, you go right, you pull the handbrake, and you push the clutch in, and then you go and you put your hand back, like in that position. And of course, I did everything wrong the first time, because that's what I always do. I pressed the brake. He said, don't press the brake. I said, don't press the brake, and you press the brake. And you put your hand back. That's the idea. And if you don't do that, you don't get the exact 180. And so it was fun. You know, we got to do that a couple of times. Of course, it was a wet track, so yeah, it was easier to get it to go around. Again, fun to do, not as spectacular. But right next to that, which was the next thing we did, they had two Dodge Chargers. 500 horsepower, and the thing was, it was a drag race. So you get in, there's a guy standing there, he says 3, 2, 1, go, and he presses the timer, and you just floor it. But these were two sort of identical cars, but not entirely, because one car, it was a little bit more lenient, and you could really floor it and it wouldn't spin. The other car wasn't so nice, so you had to sort of feel it out a little bit, and because otherwise the back wheels would just spin. You get a lot of smoke, and again, I was pretty good at that. By the time that I was driving it, I had the fastest time, but the guys behind me sort of learned the trick as well, and they went even faster. But that was fun to do. They were really comfortable. They were the most comfortable car. You get in them, you think, okay, I can do this. I can sit here for a while. It feels very very nice, and they're very powerful cars. Of course, it was nice to get a couple of laps in that. Of course, some of the guys, they just had a bit of fun, and they just floored it, and just to see who could get the most smoke out of those tires. These cars were suffering a little bit because one of them was sort of well, you get halfway down the track and it would just hold back all of a sudden, and but these cars, all they do all day long is just the little drag race, and they go back to their places and they do it again and they do it again, and I can imagine that no car would last very long doing that all its life. We had some lunch, of course, somewhere along the way, and I think that is when we went. Oh, right, this is like two more things that really got my my adrenaline flowing. So all of these cars up until now, they said just get a helmet, get in and drive. That's no further instruction. Because they were just cars. They were very powerful cars, but they were just cars. So the next thing is like an open formula car. Like these were RP4s is what they call them. Basically a Renault engine. I think they were 1.6 liters, sequential gearbox, and bare bones. There's nothing in these cars. There's like an ignition switch and a start button, and there's like a fire thing, and if you wanted to select reverse or neutral, you had to pull a wire and then shift the gear, and it's all very Spartan. But so, and this guy who was explaining the car to us was really strict, and he had a lot of information. You do this and you don't do that, and don't put your hand on the gear shifter, and I was standing there thinking, I'm never gonna remember all of this. So, and I was getting a little bit of I was getting a little bit nervous because it sounded difficult somehow. So even getting in it wasn't. It was a special trick to it. You get in it and you lean on your hands, and then you sort of sink into it with your legs pointed forward, and then you really sit in it with your legs up, which is a very strange sensation. And there was very little room there. I couldn't put my foot on the brake without the tip of my shoe was touching the top of the nose of the car where my feet were. So I had to sort of work it out a little bit, but then, someone came to check if I actually knew what the clutch and the brake and the gas pedal was. So, I have a license. I can do that, but I guess they just wanted to see if I could actually reach all of them. So I did that. The guy sort of rocked the car, and he said, well, put it in second and put it in first. And then he started the car. We were all sitting there in the pit lane again. So this thing starts buzzing, and you're sitting there with a little Momo racing wheel and helmet on. I didn't have a seat though. I was sitting on the bare. Well, it's carbon fiber, isn't it? So I mean, it makes sense because it would actually require like a fitted seat for everyone, which you can't have. So I guess this is how they did it. It wasn't very comfortable at all, but during the drive, I didn't notice anything. I had two little mirrors, which I adjusted so that I could at least see something. And during the entire drive, I didn't even notice that I had mirrors. It was just it was so exciting. So you start the car, you put the thing in. It was already in first gear, so I had my. And they said, give it lots of gas if you want, if you, as you drive off, as you pull away, which you had to do because it was sort of very, how do you say that? It was going like, going like that,
Zelfs tot aan die bocht daar, dat kan het... Een rondje of 10 gereden. Dan moet je denken, dat is nog steeds Ik vind het wel grappig dat ze ook de lichaamsmaat op die auto hebben gezet. L en XL.
Hey, hoe heb je de auto gestuurd?
Hij is wel streng inderdaad. En blikgas.
Eerst gas, langzaam en
until you get up to speed, get on the circuit, and from third gear on, there's no problem, and it's just a car. All of a sudden, it just turns into a car, and it's very precise. There's no what do you call it? Steering aid. So you get it in third gear, and all of a sudden you're in this group again, and you're going. And you're going faster and faster and faster, and it feels, because you're so low to the ground, it feels like you're going really, really fast. But down the straight, it was only going like 150 kilometers an hour, which isn't that fast at all. I mean, it's what I drive in my own car. But being in the open air in a Formula car with all the noise and all the it's a bare bones car. You're struggling with the wheel, and you're really trying to find the lines. And we were warned to stay on the exact line that the instructor is driving, and if you get off it, things can go wrong. But by that time, we'd seen the circuit a couple of times. They'd warned us to stay off the curbs because it's all dangerous. Bullshit, when you're trying to go fast, and sometimes you come out of a corner and you're gonna touch the curb, but it goes and then it just goes. You feel that you're in control, and which is a good thing. It was so much fun that I forgot all the things that the guy was trying to tell me about shifting gear and about braking and whatever. I just didn't care. It just turned into a car, and it was so much fun. And it's a lot more exciting in the car than what you're going to see in the footage, because it's just a couple of cars passing by, and it doesn't sound as spectacular. But I can assure you that inside, it's amazing. So I guess the from there, trying to get out of the car was even more difficult than trying to get in. But after that, there were two guys. They are European champion drifting. So they have these two Ford Mustangs. I think they were like 230 horsepower, both of them. And they did drifting demonstrations. So you could get in with them, and they would drift you around the circuit.
Ja, dat kan ik me voorstellen. Vanavond nog even de race kijken misschien.
We hebben hem gezien.
Oh, oké. Ja.
so before I started the whole thing, they said, oh, you can buy a USB stick. All the cars are fitted with cameras, one facing outside and one facing towards you. And you can buy a USB stick, and each car that you drive in, you just stick in the USB stick, you do your drive, and you pull it out, and you've got the footage. So I thought, ace, I'm gonna get this because I want to show it on YouTube. But it was $35, for a little fucking USB stick. It was $35, and I was standing there thinking, nah, I'm just not gonna do that. It's too much. So I just got the footage that I have. But the drifting was with me and my phone. It was so spectacular. These guys, they do this all day, so it was ultra boring for them. But they drive out of the pit lane, and they're touching each other almost, and then they're close to each other the whole time, and they drift all over the circuit. They have water in the back, and they have a button on the dashboard, and when they push that, they dump a lot of water in front of the rear wheels to make the drifting easier. Also, they said if we don't do that, our tires are going to last 2 or 3 laps. And this way they last like 60 laps, so they'd only have to change the tires once a day instead of 20 times or something. So, basically that was my racing experience day. I really, really loved it. I really loved having the opportunity to drive on our, we have 2 circuits in this country. This being like the one that's had Formula One races on them for several years. So it's kind of an honor, or I thought it was a real thing, driving in the same corners that all these Prosts and all these guys have driven, Lauda, all these people. It was just amazing, an amazing feeling. The thing is, and I have no games that have this circuit in it. So I did find a couple. One of them is iRacing, but iRacing is an online-only experience. There is no single-player thing, no racing against AI, and there's a subscription fee, which I didn't really want to pay yet, maybe in the future, but not now. But then that other game, I think it's called R Factor 2, has Zandvoort in it as well, but it doesn't have the best reviews, so I didn't want to do that. But Assetto Corsa has it, so I'm gonna buy Assetto Corsa. It supports VR, it supports racing wheels, of course, so I think I'll be good to go, and I'll be driving the Zandvoort circuit at home, in the comfort of my own home. It'll be almost like the real thing, but now I finally get, the real, the difference between playing a game and actually feeling the G-forces in the corner, because if you're not strapped into the car correctly, you're fighting the thing, and it's the whole experience, and it's a real heavy, it's a major part of being in a car, is feeling the forces, hearing the noises. That's what you just don't get in a video game. But sorry sorry about that. But us gamers, I guess we that's what we have to live with. And I know racing is a very expensive thing too, because all the fuel that you burn, all the tires and the repairs you have to do. I'm never going to be in real racing, so I'll be happy with this. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.